Welcome back to Island Tea. It's still Wednesday. Yes. March 3rd. Pump day. It's now 9:07 as we're listening to the legend himself. Anyway, I love this song. I love this song, bad, yeah. I love this song. Anyway. But speaking of history and legends, we have a very special guest here in the studio today, Mr. Leonard Stapleton. How are you, sir?
Good morning, sir. I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah.
Oh, pleasure.
I mean, I guess we gotta be thankful, because people like afraid to come here lately. I don't know what's going on with that.
Oh yeah.
Afraid of us now? No.
We're faves now. People like coming here. People love coming here. But for those of us or those listening and watching who may not know exactly who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So I was born in Brooklyn Village on the island of Nevis.
Yes, sir.
Right. So one of the things of becoming, great in as a historian, you first have to be arranged to be reared by your grandparents. It makes a heap of a difference. Yes.
Secret sauce.
And nobody tells stories like they do. And everything they tell you.
Yeah. I say this every week.
Oh, yeah.
I love just going to listen to
I am
elders.
really sorry for those people who don't obey the law and respect their elders.
No, that's sick.
Half your life gone once you're not linking with your elders. And one of the things, they were very, very good storytellers, and everything that they told you was the truth,
Mm-hmm.
And the stories were always underlined with a moral, some life lesson, that as long as you live to be 100, you would remember that lesson that your grandma taught you just by, giving you a story.
Right.
And so following that, that's the way I do it. So even though I'm here to give some little known facts, Better Life, I'm going to use this chance to actually give some important values that, people listening could adhere to.
Well, we need them to,
Yeah.
Especially Jade.
Who?
Especially Jade. Like, she needs some morals and some values.
Well, she's famous. One of the things I told her when she was speaking to me is I like when she say, Jesus Christ. Anybody who includes the name of Jesus in anything they do, has to be great.
Indeed.
Yikes.
And this is the period where we recognize the value of him dying for us,
Right.
And so he himself, when he taught, he was also a master teacher, and his parables always was like a lesson,
Indeed.
in it. So.
Indeed. But what it is that you gave up for Lent?
I'm on some serious fasting, getting rid of the build-up tension and fat from COVID lockdown.
Oh, so you was one of them just home eating away?
Yeah, man, I look like a pig. Yeah.
It's always interesting to hear what people give up for Lent. Like,
Yeah.
it's always
I
interesting.
can't say mine on here. But just know I gave up something.
Boy, what's his name? No, sorry. But
Right. So most of the things I do to continue on with what I'm doing and a bit about myself is I do a lot of writing because I recognize that I've been blessed to learn a lot of the local history, and a lot of the things that I have learned not really documented per se. And it's critical that I document as much as possible, especially now that I'm actually feeling the energy. I thank God for that, because one of the subjects that I tried to get off my slate when I was in high school, believe it or not, was history.
all right. Okay.
Yeah. I always say the devil really wicked, boy. The devil is a time traveler too, the things that he knows that you could do in the future and make a difference in people's lives. sometimes that's the thing he want to discourage you from doing.
Right.
Yeah, you make it hard and you say, no man, this thing hard, I don't like that teacher, and so on and so forth. And when you look,
that was the purpose.
that stone that you're gonna refuse become your head cornerstone.
Yeah.
Just like what Bob Marley saying that song. And I'm telling, young people out there, you're going to school or you're doing anything, you have a skill and you look like you hard and it's turning you off, double down, yeah?
Double down on it.
That might be the thing that, make you and leave a lasting legacy here and make your life useful.
And not even in school, because sometimes as adults we realize like we want to do something. It's new, so we try it and we realize how difficult it is. And the first thing we think to do is give up.
Yeah, give up. And the thing right there in front of you, once you give it a couple more days of hard work, it's there.
And it's so fascinating because the feeling you get when you realize how to figure it out, or how you figured it out, or how you actually do it, and it's like a burst of joy because you finally doing this thing that you thought you couldn't do.
But you spoke about the fact that you've been blessed to learn a lot of the local history, some of it that is not yet documented. Tell us a bit about some of the things that you mean when you say that.
Well, I know a lot of the culture for sure, but for this morning's program, because I could stay here for a month,
Okay. So
this morning program, I just want to concentrate and, there's some tidbits that you could find some more in a book I did called Places of Memory, right? And I'll just go, and usually I like to start from over. I'll give you a little tour coming to Bastia, and then we might not have enough time to get out of Bastia. That's so much history here.
Right.
And for sure, I want before the time is ended that I go deep into 3 special sites. So
Okay.
in case you see me running away, just let me know that. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you have to, Right. So we want to start over at the Southeast Peninsula. That whole area that we have now sold. I don't know if you know the extent to which we have sold off that area.
Well,
But from the time you reach to that point where you're going to come down that road to the Salpan, that entire thing belongs to private people.
right.
Most of it is
Most of it. Yeah.
right. Including the Salpan, and I've read somewhere, including the main road that you drive on.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
That's
I mean, I know.
interesting. You
based
could
on some of
research
the
it. I
development
might be
there
wrong, but I know I saw an article at the time when somebody was protesting out there, and the police was called, I think, to have him get off the people's property because he was on the main road. But the property belonged to a lady. I'm going back to the days of enslavement here. A lady by the name of Lady Briscoe. Right? So, we speak a lot about what women could accomplish. We have some examples here. Because I think that was one of the largest sugar estates on the island, second only to, of course, the Wingfield estate in Old Road. That was the largest. I think because she was separated from the rest of St. Kitts by geography, you would understand that it's only because of the great visionary work of Sir Kennedy why we could access it so easily by road. But in the old days, it had to be by sea.
Right.
I think up to the time when the Pereiras were living over there.
Oh, yeah.
They come to school not by car, but by boat.
Boat.
Yeah.
That was how it was.
And so there was a natural resource over there that was shared equally between the French and the English when both nations occupied St. Kitts. So that was neutral ground. And I'm speaking about the Salpan.
The Salpan,
right. Now, the Salpan dates back to over 38 million years. Right? So they've been tests done on the rocks in different parts of the island. And they could date using carbon dating and different methods that they use to tell you how old the rocks are. And so there are rocks over there that date back to over 38 million years. Right? Now, the Salpan does not get
a long time ago.
It doesn't get its salt from the sea, like most people probably would think. A lot of the salt is there because that Salpan is actually an old denudated crater. Right. So when you're driving down, next time you go over there, just look around and you'll see everything sloping towards that lake.
Yeah.
So that's a crater lake. And the mineral salts in the soil over there is what bring the salt down into the salt pan. So when you have rain, it kind of bring the salt, dissolve the salts in the soil and it collects there. And then when we have dry weather, like what we're going into now, the water would evaporate. You know, that's
Even
like
the
when
salt.
man get drunk and salt the water and drop sleep.
Right.
Our left in the pot is right. So that's the same effect over there. And of course, it's like an ice rink when the salt is formed. You could walk all the way to the center and pick salt, right? And it was a good industry here. I think the last person that had a serious industry over there was the grandfather, I believe, of Charles Wilkin. So people who want to know more and actually see photographs of how it used to operate, they could check Charles Wilkin. And right, so when we sold that property to the developers, one of the first things they did was to let in the seawater. So once the seawater is in, that's no more, you can't evaporate all the seawater. So, within a short period of time, what was there for 38 million years disappeared. Like what we said on here, poof.
The salt gone.
Right. So, but for those who want to see that phenomena, that St Kitts was famous for. So St Kitts was not just famous for sugar. It was famous for that great salt pan. As a matter of fact, on the map, you'll see it called the Great Salt Pan.
Yeah.
Okay, there was none like it in these islands. If you go down to Turtle Beach, because there were numerous salt pans, right? There's still one down there. Right? That knowledge was shared to me when I was sharing some knowledge with somebody. It's good to share. So I'm sharing one thing and the person is sharing. And it was a young lady. And she told me, if you want to see salt, you go down to that pond by, down to the Turtle Beach area and you'll be able to see it. So last year I went there with the family and I was able to show the youngsters, this is what used to happen here in St Kitts, and they were picking the salt and everything. I still got some home.
People go over there sometimes.
It's best salt.
Yeah, man.
The best salt. So over there now in those hills, I think they're documented, and you have to give credit to the work of the National Trust have been doing in terms of documenting some of these sites. So everything I'm saying here, you could get some follow-up, and if you don't believe me, get some proof from the archives and from the National Trust.
Well, I think I think Mr. Hanley also speaks to these things because he's been on the show more than once. So I think he did actually say that they have been documenting.
Yes, the sites.
Things, yeah.
Good. And there's some caves over there, and there's evidence that there seem to have been a maroon quarter. I think there's an old map that actually speaks to a maroon quarter in one of those hills. Right. And so people were able to find refuge over there.
Right.
There have been some artifacts found too to suggest that in the area,
Interesting.
And also artifacts not just from our African ancestors, but artifacts from the original Kittitians, the Kalinagos. Right? So a lot of artifacts were found over there. So we're coming in now. You see that windmill that's there that's partly broken down? When you're going down to the road to Cockleshell Bay?
Right.
Yeah, that has been there since the days of Lady Briscoe.
Oh, okay.
And that road is the original road. It's just that we put some asphalt on it now.
Okay.
All right, so we come and we go to Friars Bay. Now, that sandbank that you see there, that separates North Friars Bay from South Friars Bay,
Right.
it wasn't there all the time. Okay? Just that leap that I made there from over at Cockleshell to Friars Bay, at least 5 separate islands over there.
Huh?
Oh, yeah. You see, when you're right there by Reggae Beach, and you could see a hill up there, right, that's Scott's Bonnet. If you look at it on the map, you'll see it jutting out to sea, and it's just a little sandbank that attached it to the rest of St. Kitts.
Right.
So there was a time when there was no sand there. Right? So what caused that buildup of sand? You have St. Kitts between 2 huge bodies of water, the Atlantic and the Caribbean Sea. So usually when you have bodies of water coming together like that, you have a process in geography called accretion, like the buildup of sand.
Yeah.
And So we have some sandbanks that actually have joined some of these islands. Right there by other place so they got those galvanized from up by the sugar factory. But you all go there to do
Salt
the
Plage.
Salt Plage. Right. So they have preserved some of the sugar factory history. Got the galvanizer you see there that look rustic and everything and could stand up to the sea blast. Was those thick galvanized from the sugar factory.
Sugar factory, yeah.
Right. There's a little islet there. It used to be a separate island. Joined to St Kitts by a little piece of sand. It's almost disappearing again. Because since they've made that way for the water to be connected to the Caribbean Sea, the Salt, it's partially now becoming an island again. There's just a thin layer of sand holding it on to St Kitts again.
Wow.
One of the highest points over there is St. Patrick's Peak. Right? That St. Patrick's Peak and Nag's Head, where the Christina, Christina made it famous. They were separate islands.
Okay.
Right. So next time you go, you take a look.
You could kind of visualize
Yeah.
it now.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you a lot of people didn't know this.
Well, the next time they go, they could be more vigilant and more observant, and they would see. And they just get a nice map overhead. People have drones now; they could do that thing. That spine now that we call the peninsula, that's that connects St. Kitts to over there. That is connected to St. Kitts by the sandbar between Friars Bay and Timothy Hill.
Right.
So when you go up there, you could clearly see there was a time when the Atlantic ran straight into the Caribbean Sea.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Then now they're thinking about it. When you come down off Timothy Hill, it's really just a small
Small,
stretch, It's like a beach, like really. It's like
Your sand.
Yeah, the sand.
Yeah.
Your
Wow. That's interesting.
Timothy Hill itself also is a lot of history. I mean, we call it Timothy Hill, but the original name was Sir Timothy Thorns Hill. Yeah, this was a guy, when the French and the English were living here, they used to really fight. They were enemies,
Yeah, man.
Okay? The only reason why both of them were able to settle here is this thing where you call, people say it all the time, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
My friend, yeah.
Right, so they had a common set of people they wanted to get rid of for St. Kitts. That were the Kalinagos.
Right.
And so they joined forces.
The
Right?
people that actually lived here.
Right. So one of the bad thing though about joining up with your enemy to get rid of our enemy is that once that enemy is gone,
We go back to
we go back to be enemies again.
Yep.
So once they have gotten rid of the Kalinagos, they now start to cut one another throat here.
Yeah, man, you could go ahead.
Oh, okay, right. And so every time they actually had a treaty to arrange how they would go to war, They would give each other 72 hours notice, like 3 days.
Yeah, man. Anything less to be
I
uncivilized.
know.
The reason being, once there's war in Europe between France and England, they feel like down here in St. Kitts, they automatically go to war.
We got to go to war.
Right.
We
So once news come about war, they give each other notice.
So imagine.
We're about to turn up, eh? Things about to turn up.
Everybody just chilling, relaxing,
Yeah.
they're eating whatever they're eating, terrorizing whoever they're terrorizing.
You're eating your croissants over at the
Yeah.
French side, and somebody from the English side and say,
Some biscuit and tea.
knock,
and
knock,
some-
knock,
Yeah. Tomorrow, in 3
Yeah,
days,
we're here,
we're doing this thing.
just to let you know in 3 days' time we're going to come, And that's how they live here. And
Pretty awesome.
so there's this thing about winning the battle and losing the war. So most of the wars that were fought here, I think even all of them, all of the battles that were fought here, the French won. Okay, they were more prepared to
Yeah.
for battle. And when they won, they would capture the entire St. Kitts. So there were several times when the French took control of the entire St. Kitts. They never really settled on Nevis, even though sometimes they captured Nevis also, because Nevis was British.
They're just flexing.
And one of the times the British had to send for reinforcement, and this guy, Timothy Thornhill, led an attack from right there by Friars. And he had to march his soldiers up to the top of that hill that we call Timothy Hill. Imagine Timothy Hill without any road.
With any road, just a hill?
Just pure hill. And back then, you're shooting with those guns, those muskets, with one shot, which you have to load. You have to put in the gunpowder, ram that, put in the pellet, ram that in also, and then shoot.
Wow, sounds very tiring.
By the time you're doing that, somebody done take aim at your head or your heart or whatever.
4 times. You capture 4 times, yeah.
That 3 heads up ain't really helping.
So here the thing now about strategy in those kind of warfare. Whoever had the highest altitude always had the advantage. Right? It's also true with fencing, with sword fighting. So you could imagine the French on top of Timothy Hill. They could have at least 2,000 soldiers on top of that hill, you know. And when the British looking up, they only see in the front row.
Right.
So they could only aim at the front row.
At the front row.
While they're shooting at the front row, the back row loading their gun out of sight, out of harm's way. And then when that front row finish firing, they step back and those behind come forward, ready to shoot.
Rotating fire.
Right. So they had another, and then the people in front on the top seeing all the British soldiers to the bottom, and they could pick out anybody.
Yeah.
The British wasn't really ready for this thing.
But here the thing, this is the amazing thing, and why the hill is still named Sir Timothy Thornhill. Because they immortalize him by naming that hill off of him, you know. Because he actually captured the hill.
Captured the hill.
What?
He come up under those circumstances with the one bullet and everything, he and the guys them. And the British honored him. He actually fought his way through Bastia all the way to Brimstone Hill, you know.
What? That's
Oh yeah.
crazy.
And that was the time when Brimstone Hill now was the second neutral point. Because in the treaty between the French and the English, there was some neutral grounds, and Brimstone Hill was a quarry. That's like over at Canada Estate,
Yeah.
quarry for building materials and also sulfur. So you had the limestone and the brimstone rocks there, the andesite rocks, and also sulfur. These were precious resources
Yeah.
that the two countries here decided to share among themselves.
Right.
But the French now, with the smartness, went under the guise of, I guess, of mining and so forth, captured a fort below that's older than Brimstone Hill.
That's Charles.
Charles Fort.
Charles Fort. Yeah.
Yep.
Where's that one for people who may not?
It's right there, what they call the leper's home.
Yeah.
And it is in excellent condition thanks to the collaboration between Brimstone Hill, the National Trust, and the government.
Yes.
It's better than any island you go to,
Yeah.
right, in these parts.
People need to go and see
Right,
it.
so they need to see it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
older
really-
than
it's really
Brimstone
good.
Hill, but Brimstone Hill was a more strategic point because the French were able to use that hill and fire down on the fort and capture it. When Sir Timothy Thornhill come to recapture the fort, he also had to go up
Brimstone
to
Hill.
Brimstone Hill. And that is when the British realized, no, this place here is more strategic as a military site.
Right.
Hence,
The
Brimstone. This is
commission the fortress up there.
This is 1690. So the oldest fortification on Brimstone Hill, the Aurelian Bastion, down where the cemetery is and everything.
Right.
That long building marks it also. It dates back to 1690. It's very old.
I remember the war by. I remember that. Yeah.
It sounded like he was there.
Yeah.
So we go back to Sir Timothy Thornhill. It was almost like an impossible feat, okay?
Yeah.
And so the maps that came out afterwards would actually show a long name for the hill. And this is the name. Sir Timothy Thornhill's Hill, where he beat the French. I think it was Saturday. I don't know. I don't remember the month.
And the date as well.
The
in
date
name.
in 1690.
Oh boy.
That whole long name, you know, we Kittish, we ain't going with that long
Look
name.
at that.
Timothy Hill.
Timothy Hill.
Timothy Hill. Okay? But it's Sir Timothy, and then you notice his surname got in Hill already.
Hill
Sir
already,
Timothy
so-
Thornhill.
You put a hill
Ah,
on a
look.
hill.
Right.
All right, so we come down to Frigate Bay.
But you know what?
Yeah.
We actually it's so much. Just giving us so much information.
It's a lot.
Yeah, we need to palate it and digest it.
Digest it.
Yeah, so we're gonna take a short break and be right back right here on Island Tea.
Okay.
Stay tuned, guys.
from
Orange tropical mango.
peach orange, orange apricot, black currant,
Apple, red orange, red fruit.
bursting with vitamin C.
Sunquick.
Natural, tasty, full of vitamin C. The drink for the whole family. It's Sunquick.
What a moderation. Domina jam domino. It's all over creation. Not only in a jam domino. It's only inflation. All over creation, yo. And a be a starvation. Not only in a jam domino. I miss a workhouse, arms out. Madhouse, the way we do you. Mismanagement, unemployment, imprisonment, the way we do you. Slave rocket, empty wallet, broke pocket, the way we do you. Tenant yard, rent yard, landlord, the way we do you. What a moderation, domina jam domino. It's all over creation. Not only in a jam, yo, and not only inflation. All over creation, yeah. And now be a starvation. Not only in a jam, yo. Homicide, suicide, genocide, the way we do you. Consideration, desperation, eradication, now way we do you. Gamblings, hustlings, scufflings, the way we do you. Cheap up, stay broke, bad luck, the way we do you. What a moderation, domina jam domino. It's all over creation. Not only in a jam, yo, and not only inflation. Domina jam, yo, it's all over creation. Not only in a jam, yo. Promises, apologies, diseases, the way we do you. Power cut, water shut, hungry cut, the way we do you. Conman, gunman, hangman, the way we do you. Courthouse, jailhouse, detention, the way we do you. What a moderation. Domina jam, it's all over.
And welcome back to Island Tea. And we're having a conversation, very interesting conversation with Mr. Leonard Stapleton, telling us about some of the lesser known facts about the island. But you know, it's so funny, like he's talking about history, but we're getting some geography, we're getting all kind of things by. But
The life lessons. You know.
yeah, so we were on a short journey coming from the peninsula into town. So we had Timothy Hill, well, Sir Thornton.
So Timothy Thorn's Hill.
Yeah, Timothy Hill, yeah.
We actually have an image from that.
The battle that he was talking about, a
Yes.
depiction.
So
So
you have
those,
to march his men up single file
yeah,
because of the terrain and everything. So you'll see the men in single file.
yeah.
Maybe that's what saved him too, you know, because
This was only
if
for-
they
Right.
were broadside, they could have gotten a lot more kill, you know.
Easy pick them up,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but this honestly, this whole war sounds tiring.
Yeah, and let me tell you something, right? It's so interesting to hear you talk about this because things like this, I find very interesting. The reason, for some reason, I like period pieces. I like movies and shows that
Right,
based
right.
in. And right now, I'm watching this one on Netflix called Age of the Samurai,
Ah.
and
saw that.
it's literally just talking about like all the wars that happened during the 1500s to reunify Japan.
Japan.
Right at the time, and it's like we have these same sorts of struggles and things here. Like we need to.
We got some epic ones here, man.
Aye.
We have some epic battles that were fought here.
Yeah, well, Mr. Stapleton, someone wants to know if the hill had an original name before the long name that it was given by the British.
No.
No? It was just a hill?
That's, remember, this is virgin. It was virgin land. I mean, I don't know if the Kalinagos had their own name for it.
And we wouldn't know because they killed them.
And you know, them man just were writing on what they call it,
Stones,
hieroglyphics and
rocks and thing. Yeah. But yeah, so we at Timothy Hill. So, we
So
going
one
now?
of the lessons I want to think, I just want to pay homage to so Kennedy,
Right.
who had the vision to put the road there. I always say, I know he did a lot of other great things, you know, leading us into independence and different things. But if he didn't do anything else, putting the road there
Yes.
would have earned him his place.
Look, let me tell you something. Up to yesterday, I'm sitting talking to my grandfather, and
That's a good thing you're doing there, man.
I live in a place where I could see the Freeway Road, and daily he goes and he looks at the car. He literally counts the cars going there because he always says, watch how they went and put the road there. People say the road to nowhere.
Okay. Remember, I tell you what the devil do. Licks, when you're going to do something that's great, licks and opposition up front.
Yeah, he talks about how much, you know, let's say negative, you know, reaction it was to the whole Freeway Road. And then I look at that now.
Once your intention is noble, all right? And if you don't know what noble intentions are, you spend some time in the Bible. And spend some time around the older folks. Right? Huh? You know, it pleased me so much to hear that, you know, you converse with your grandfather. I mean, it's very important to do that. And that's something that is the genesis of vision, you know, conversing with these old folks. Because they've been there, you know.
Yeah,
and what the Hill should teach you, though, with what Sir Kennedy's vision was, is that when you're doing things, and you know your intention is noble, it doesn't matter how much fight down, how difficult, continue.
Right.
Continue.
Perseverance.
Yes, because at the end, you see how much people benefit. Up to yesterday, I mean, I never get tired of driving over there. And it just pleased me. It takes the tiredness out of driving from town to Cockleshell to catch the boat over there. And it's a wonderful sight every time. It's a blessing.
Right.
Okay, and no other island has that, I could tell you.
Yeah.
Even if they have something close, they can't say they're looking at one side seeing the Atlantic and peep on the other side and see the Caribbean Sea.
Right.
It is a blessing. So we're into Frigate Bay?
Yes, we are.
Right, you want some more history?
Want some more?
Right, that's what I'm here for, right?
Yeah, we reach up to the top of the hill here, so we're coming down
We're
now.
coming down.
It's easy
But before
now.
we come off the hill, I'll let you know that the hill too was a separate island. Remember I just told you that the whole of Friars Bay is just sand.
Right.
A sandbank. Then now, if you start to dig from the strip all the way to the Marriotts, all you're going to find is sand. So I mean, that whole place there was surrounded by water.
Was hot at some point, yeah.
I mean, when you drive to the strip, just look to the pasture. Somebody look like they were digging a trench.
Yeah.
I ain't see one stone up to yet. That's pure sand. Okay, so another tidbit there. And it's one of the oldest parts of the island too. So that part of the island was formed before the area that we are now. Okay.
So how old what is it?
Yeah, it's between, it's in an area they call the Eocene area, I think. Between 35 to around 40 million years old. That time. That's where the stones date from.
No, that was before Barnum. So.
Yeah. Now, remember, St Kitts was one of the most important colonies, you know. So them guys sent down their best scientists and so forth to do there's a lot of research done on St Kitts and Nevis that's out there. That has been the basis for numerous books that you probably have read already, you know. But they left out one important thing. They forgot to say that this knowledge came from St Kitts and Nevis.
Yeah.
So that's why it's critical that we write our own books here.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay? So I don't just say it. I write. I'm sure you could see the table spread off here.
Wait, so before we get to the point where we jump back into history, I feel like you should tell the people, because somebody did ask on the live. One, what are the names of the books that you wrote? Yes, and also where they can find these books in case they want to read them.
Not in case.
Yeah,
well, when they want to read them.
Yeah, I'm a
You
different
go find them
creature.
today.
Yeah, they could contact me for sure. I don't mind you giving them my number.
Well, you're here right now, you know.
Yeah, well, 661-9060. The first one I started with, believe it or not, had to do with the French. So I chronicled Duponcy. He was not the first French governor, but he was by far the most prolific. And so he lived just up the road from me, where I live in now, in St. Peter's.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of history up there.
Make sure to show the camera, the box. So
Well, where's the camera?
It's right here.
Yeah. Oh.
And
Right.
the name of this one is
This is Places of Memory. So while I was doing this, I did this in conjunction with the UNESCO, right? So that's when Antonio Mena, the guy who was in charge of Social
Director.
Security, right? So he too is building his legacy here.
Yeah, man.
And then eventually I continued on my own. And you see, that's the thing, you know, you had challenges and then you continue because it's something noble. Lo and behold, you had Mr. Hodge becoming the PS for education.
Oh.
Right.
And after a lot knockbout and different things, I muster up the energy to go and say, you know, I'm doing this thing here. And within around 5 minutes, he said, we're going to put this thing in this, you know, it's going to go in school.
Big up Mr. Hodge one time.
Yes.
And the minister too, Sean Richards.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
man.
Yeah.
Friend of the show.
And but it has gotten support from both sides, you know, for the political thing.
Definitely.
It's good.
Like you said, it's a noble,
Yes.
noble undertaking.
And what it does, it chronicles all the history. Well, sites that you pass every day. It puts more meaning to it. Because I'm sure now you know about some of the history across here. You're not going to drive across it the same way again.
Yes,
I
yeah,
hope
change
not.
the whole perspective.
Right.
Right.
So you get a bit more meaning to the sites.
Very, yes.
So
And
that's why it's
appreciation.
called places. And it's only local history.
Nice.
All the parishes on St. Kitts covered, all the parishes in Nevis. So in your parish, you must find more than one site that's mentioned here.
But you know, let me tell you something. Like, as somebody who has had friends and family who've come to visit and thing, and I always hear people talk about, "Bye, it's so hard to find, nothing here to do, nothing here to see," and I'm just like, you just don't know. You just don't know. Like, and I'm really happy to hear that. You know, a book like this that helps to
Yeah.
chronicle some of these places, and let us know what it is that we have here, like our history. Like, I think it really gives a sense of pride as well, right? Knowing knowing that some of these places here exist and the history behind them, and like you said, it kind of makes it more than just some rubble or a landmark or whatever. It gives it a new meaning.
There's
Yeah.
some sites here that the history is so critical that the history of the world right now, I'm talking about St. Kitts and Nevis, you know,
Yeah, man.
that the history of the world right now would not have been the same had those sites not existed with the kind of history and the people associated with the sites.
Give us an example of one of those sites.
I'll call two names, but I don't have the time to go into details.
Right.
We'll have to check the book. I'll call the name of Alexander Hamilton.
Right.
I'll go no further. Anything that America has that's good came from him.
Right, exactly.
In terms of the money, even how the money look, the money it's Wall Street, the Coast Guard, all them different things. And I'll also mention a gentleman who lived here by the name of lawyer James Stevens.
They sound like a relative of mine.
Right. But it's just to show you the kind of giants we're speaking about here.
Right.
Okay? While I was doing this, one of the things I realized that I have to get things out there. I can't just be speaking and, you know,
Yes.
the words evaporate and it's in the memory of a few people. So I started this magazine called Spectacular Views. Right. And at this juncture, I would like to really big up the people at the Ministry of Tourism. The
Right.
current PS, Scarlett Henry Morton.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she and I do a lot of collaboration.
End of the show.
Right. And
Actually,
I do.
to be totally honest, right? that is where I heard your name the first time.
Oh, it's good. Good.
Yes,
yeah, good,
from
good.
Miss Morton.
Miss Morton.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So she does a lot. And one of the thing about Miss Morton, once I am there, she always got her pen and paper, you know. So she's taking notes, which I like, you know. Also the tourism authority. So I have been engaged on numerous occasions to help and collaborate with the taxi drivers. Because, you know, we have the best set of taxi driver and tour guides in the Caribbean here. Okay?
Excuse me.
Right. But even though you're good, you could even come better.
Better. Indeed.
Right. So this part here, where they could add a bit more meaning to
Yeah, man.
their tours.
Definitely.
That was introduced.
And it really add value to the
Right.
tours
Right.
and to the experience.
And I think the latest thing that we're doing at tourism is the community tourism. So we go into the communities and we have people who are already doing things like farming, making drinks and so forth, to collaborate and actually put some tours of the
Yeah,
community
man.
into it.
Yeah,
Okay, so
like-
they live in there,
Yeah.
So what I do, I go in and tell them, you see this place here? When you have anybody, even if they're from St Kitts, tell them this thing about this place. here.
Right, right,
But
right.
don't forget to give them the lesson too that this side should teach them.
Right.
I always underscore my things with lessons. And talking about lessons now, we come back to Frigate Bay, because if we get into these books, we're gonna be here.
Yeah.
All the books
And you're
need their own-
saying, so
their
the best
own
way to get
program.
them is to reach out to
Yeah,
you personally?
the National Trust has. The National Trust has. If you're in Nevis, you could check. I think Glasgow would have
All right.
And just
Um,
repeat your number for people listening again.
661-9060.
Okay.
I also did on Brimstone Hill. I hope we have a few minutes so I could say something on Brimstone Hill.
We have about 10.
We have
You
about
have
10.
the floor.
Okay, right. Okay. So you see what I mean? I haven't reached into the heart of Bastia yet. Right?
Imagine.
Okay. So we're down into Frigate Bay, and I want to really pay homage again to another one of our great. I was moved that you're playing one of my guys here. Sad news yesterday that he passed.
Yeah.
Bonnie Whaler. But one of those guys also sing a song. Let's recall some great men. They will say, let's recall Marcus Garvey and so forth. But here in St. Kitts, we have our great men too. And when you speak about Frigate Bay and the transformation of Frigate Bay, there's an image there you could click forward and you find Frigate Bay, how it used to look. You see how it looked there, barren, ain't even a nice lush green pasture, dry pasture, right? You had to have vision to recognize that you could turn that place into what Frigate Bay look like now.
Because
Indeed.
it looks totally.
Transformed.
Right.
Transformed.
And so we recall Sir Paul Southwell. He was the one who had the vision to transform over there into what we see now. And as I am touching on him, I would like to point out that he was not born here. Okay? I cannot say this enough, We have this thing where we shunning people who come into St. Kitts from
Oh, man, you
different
listened to the show
islands.
yesterday, man.
Yeah, I won't believe so. This is exactly what we talk about yesterday. So I
Every
was
time I
listening.
get a chance to say it, I say it. I said it with Cornelius too. We should welcome them. Okay? Because what I recognize about most of them, not all, but most of them are coming here with the kind of values, work ethics, and so forth that we used to have as a society,
Right.
and we give up. So even if it's just to remind the majority of us of how to take life serious and how to work hard and appreciate the things that our forefathers here in St. Kitts have worked for, because they have come here and recognized that somebody put a good education system in place
Right.
and made it accessible for poor people.
Right.
Because where they're coming from,
They
they can't access some of the things that they're accessing here for free,
Right.
Somebody did some work and made it so that people had access to proper health care.
Healthcare.
And as I'm on the health, I'm advocating for people to go take the injection. And I'm seeing some photos, and all I'm seeing is people who are not from here, who live here but not from here,
Yeah.
lining up to take the injection.
Yeah.
But to get back, so Paul Southwell came here and gave his entire life to the development of St. Kitts and Nevis, and he wasn't born here. Okay?
Right.
So it's a message to people here that, hey, part of St. Kitts and Nevis that's great came from somebody who was not from here. It's one of our heroes, right up there at the Heroes Park.
Yeah.
And one little known thing, 'cause one of the things I promise is to say something that people wouldn't know, is that was a famous dwelling ground. I don't know if you watch the movie, The Duelist. You should look at it.
Yeah, man.
That I know you like period time. And so one of the things that the rich people used to do to settle scores,
Yeah, they'll do.
you insult them
Oh,
You play up too much with the man's wife, or you say something that
You just got to
insults
do
him.
that sunrise now.
This is where this phrase "take the gloves off"
Take the
come
gloves
from.
off,
Yeah,
yeah.
they will take the gloves off and they will slap you. That mean duel, you know.
yeah.
And so everybody had their own agent that they would sign and waiver. So whoever get killed, the other person who killed them
Yeah, free.
exempt from
Yeah.
prosecution.
Right.
Thing, yeah. Even
And-
all my jewels.
But
Yeah, I
the
know you're still
police,
here.
the police would stop it because it was against the law, really, to do that.
Right.
But Frigate Bay was famous. As a matter of fact, people used to come even from Nevis to do the dueling over at.
I forget me.
Oh yeah. And one of the things about
Gangster.
Frigate Bay, those who follow politics would know, is that Frigate Bay has two parishes there, St. Peter's and St. George.
St. George, yeah.
Right. So back then, the way the sheriff system set up is that when you're going to arrest somebody in St. George, you got to get documents from St. George
Right.
to make the arrest. If you're in St. Peter's, you have to have those documents for that parish.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that the duellers would do is line up by that boundary, the St. Peter, St. George boundary.
And depending on who comes.
When the sheriff comes, because the sheriff usually gets word that, hey, there's a duel going to take place over there. So he comes from St. George with the St. George paper to say he arrested.
Arrested, yeah.
All the man do is step over.
Step on the other side. You ain't gonna
He
jurisdiction.
got to go
here,
back
boss.
town to go get the proper paper. So by the time he come back,
The
You
duel
know-
unsettled. Things unsettled.
yeah.
Things unsettled.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't.
So it's some exciting history, you know. I mean, when you watch the movies and you see things, them things happen here also.
No, man.
So it look like we're not gonna get into Bastia fully.
No. But not today.
But what I
Not
mean is that
today.
you need to come back. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying.
So as promised, I want to feature Brimstone Hill. Okay? Because it's our Eiffel Tower, to borrow a phrase from, I don't know if it was Puddy who said it. A meeting we had at Brimstone Hill Society. And one of the guys there say, you know, Brimstone Hill to St. Kitts and Nevis is like the Eiffel Tower to
To Paris,
to
France.
Paris, France, you know, and it's true. There was also another fortified edifice here, up at St. Peter's this time, called Duponcy's Chateau. Remember I mentioned Duponcy?
Yeah, man.
Duponcy was
French
a
governor.
special kind of governor. This was a guy who was already decorated. As a matter of fact, when he came to St. Kitts, it changed the look of how the governors used to look, because the governors, Warner and Dace Nambok before him, they were seafaring people.
Right.
I don't have to tell you how seafaring people live.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy was a decorated Knight of Malta.
Yeah, man.
Came to St. Kitts well accomplished, already had his legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And this was during the time of King Louis XIV and so forth. And you know how King Louis XIV would have featured in building the Palace of Versailles with the fountains and the gardens and everything. So he tried to recreate something like that up there.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you would have heard of Fountain Estate.
Fountain Estate.
That's why they call it Fountain Estate, because of the fountain, the water fountains that he was able to construct. But he did not build them himself, you know. It's our ancestors built everything.
Yeah,
Well,
man.
usually.
Okay. And I also want to mention the Bath Hotel in Nevis. The Bath Hotel in Nevis was built around 1778. That's what we call donkey years ago. Okay? Donkey years. You go up there, you could still spend a night inside. You still go inside there and sleep, and the water wet you down and everything. It's in pristine condition, stronger than ever.
Yeah.
I think Elimat got a song, so stronger than ever. Right? Right. It's there and it's beautiful still. It's built by our ancestors for free.
As usual.
For free. You ever had anybody come build something for you, charge you a lot of money, and when you look the thing crumble and look good and so forth?
Imagine that, eh?
They build it for free.
Right.
Free labor.
They build it and them still pay for it with their blood,
Okay.
sweat and tears.
You go now to Brimstone Hill. There's none like it in the Caribbean. None. Even the Queen, who accustomed to places like Buckingham Palace and all them different places in England, when she came here, I think it was 85. immensely impressed with Brimstone Hill. You go up there, there's a plaque up there with some of the words that you use to describe the importance of the place. Since 1999, the place has been recognized by UNESCO as being so significant, not just to St. Kitts, but to the world.
Right.
Outstanding universal value they declare that Brimstone Hill possesses. What is instrumental here is that it was built from scratch by our ancestors. Even the stones and the limestone for the mortar and everything were excavated on site and cut into smaller stones. And when they don't cut into smaller stones, they have to shape them up to the blocks that you see up there, you know. And there are thousands of them up there. Now, to put things into perspective, this again might be a little known thing. For us to appreciate the kind of work, they said each of our enslaved ancestors who were tasked in making those blocks would produce 5 to 8 per day. So next time you go to Brimstone Hill or in one of those places, appreciate, please, the kind of work. And don't think that artisans today could do it better.
No.
You hire a man today with all the tools, you're lucky if you get 2 or 3 of them cut stones there. That is a hard andesite rocks, you know. And our ancestors produce that and all those rocks. And then put them together to the design and specification of the plans by the Royal British engineer who came down here to build. And I'll let you know, not one of them went to school. Sometimes when I relay the story, somebody say, "What Stapleton, they had to do it because they were getting lashes." I say, not a thing. So I've known of some of our ancestors who get lashes and stay there and do some of the work that the planters them forced them to do.
Yeah, that's that kind of ingenuity.
They were doing it for a deeper purpose.
Right.
They knew that we, the descendants, going to be learning about them from the writings of the British who were enslaving them. And it's not always truthful, it's not always the right picture. They would write it in such a way that we would look down on them and feel ashamed.
Right.
There's some people who still feel that ashamed because their ancestors were slaves, you know. But they were accomplished people, they were gifted people.
Yeah, definitely.
And one of the things that Brimstone Hill and all those sites teach us is that our ancestors, they were sending a message from across the ages to us, the descendants, that you come from proper stock.
Right.
You can do great things because look at what we did.
Yeah, man, greatness is in you.
Look at what we did. Look at Brimstone Hill. Look at the Bath Hotel. Look at all those ruins around the island, still standing. And they did that without any pay, without any education, formal education. Now that we have all of that, we should be doubling down and doing even better.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, we can't afford to rest on our laurels.
Oh,
like
no.
We have a proud legacy to live up to, right? And to continue to appreciate some of these works. I think that, like you said, sometimes the perspective with which we look at the past is shaped by those who would have written the history.
Yeah.
But we have the examples of greatness
Right in front of us.
right in front of us. You know, nobody have to write nothing and tell you. You could see it, you could experience it. And this is one of the things that we speak about here, especially during COVID as we're coming out. Take this time to explore your own country.
Oh yeah, there are
Take
lots
this.
to explore.
Yeah, a lot of times we leave these things for the tourists and those coming in and whatever, but this is for us, and it should mean more to us than anybody else. You know what I mean? It should mean more to us than anybody else, and the value is not in just a place to go, place to take some nice pictures. The value is in exactly what you said, the the message that it instills in us, that we have this potential in us as well to produce this and even greater, right?
One of the things that is encouraging, and I would like to take this chance because I didn't mention too much about Nevis. Nevis has been doing a lot of things out there, and they're still doing. So you have to give kudos to the people in leadership over in Nevis, who they too have been doing a lot in terms of bringing a lot of the culture, resurrecting a lot of the culture, and taking better care and telling the stories behind a lot of the sites up there.
Who? Because people like who? Because I was about to say kudos to somebody, but I'm not sure if they're
He didn't say
involved.
leadership and
Well, the leadership and the technocrats and so forth, the people who really go down there and put their hand on this stuff. You know, so you have the strategists, the policy makers.
So like Mr. Drip.
Mr. Who?
Drip. That's our name for Mr. Matt Brantley. His
Yeah.
name is-
Oh, you call him Grip? How come?
No, his name is Mac Drip
Oh, Drip. Oh,
Brantley because of the way he dresses. He's always
oh, the Dapper Dan.
yes.
Yes. And there's more to them, you know. One of the things I've realized, because I'm doing this project right now with His Excellency. I hope you don't mind that I give a sneak peek. And we're looking at people who would have contributed to the building up of this nation in their different sectors.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
whether it's health, education, sports. We're starting with the icons of governance. Notice I didn't say politician. That's almost a bigger bad word than
Right.
than anything. So we use a nice word, the icons of governance. And you would recognize that a lot of those gentlemen who went into politics, we shouldn't knock them too hard. That's one of the things, one of the sacrifices you make when you enter politics. Your good name, that's the first thing you sacrifice. A lot of the things you have done, that's great.
People don't appreciate it.
Prepare for it to be torn to pieces. Okay? And so they really risk that, sacrifice that, and still come and serve. It's not easy. And many of them, having interviewed them, are geniuses. I mean, we really have the best of the best in these areas here. And they could have made it in their field. Engineers, musicians, teachers, and different things. The best. Not just here in St Kitts, you know, some of them class up with people in the Caribbean and beat them out.
And the world.
And they decided to come back here and put themselves forward to lead. So, you know, we shouldn't really hit them too hard because they really sacrifice. And they have feelings. They feel it, you know, when they get these things. As much as they put up a Vinny and thing it up, but they still are human beings. But when the work comes out eventually, people would see, you know, a different side of our leaders.
Yeah, and then I think that's such an important undertaking, and really want to wish you the best. And when those, you know, those projects start to come out, you know, be sure to come back here and have a conversation with us about what's happening, inform the people.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, man, definitely. But unfortunately, at least for this show, we're going to have to call it a wrap. Guys, it's Wednesday, a.k.a.
Hump day.
Where that day come from? I thought it was every day, something.
Hey, you see this guy?
Want to change history.
Well, I mean, we want to change history. Maybe he's telling us the real history.
That's true, you know, suppose we didn't say that. Oh my God.
But it goes back to what God said, you know, go forth and be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth.
Indeed. Well, it's March 3rd, guys. All day today. All day today is going to be March 3rd. So, you know, we really want to thank you, Mr. Stapleton, for coming through and like giving us these tidbits of information, and I think really inspiring people to kind of go out and look around and take notice of these places around us. Guys, today, what I'm shouting out today, I'm gonna take a page out of Mr. Stapleton's book. I'm gonna shout out the elders today.
Oh yeah.
Big up yourself.
Good.
One time, Miss Henny. Again, come see you in a while. I come in. My grandmother to buy. She asked me to buy some ginger and coke. Yeah.
Azem, what are you doing?
Me no buy. I drop in flat. I come in, mama coming. So yeah, but big up to the elders today. Look, you guys got some elders in your communities. Go out, spend some time to speak to them, like the gangsters, all of them. But guys, thanks for listening to Island Tea. For those of you missing Kevon, like we said, he should be back with us tomorrow.
Yeah, he's just out in space.
Yeah, he's in space somewhere. We don't know.
Lost.
He's lost.
Floating.
Yeah, but
Hopefully we could get him back.
yeah, I mean, he's slim, so
Yeah, yeah.
he shouldn't.
And it could be worse. So.
Indeed. But in his words, I just want to remind everyone listening under the sound of my voice and everyone looking online that you can't be everyone's cup of tea because you is not a mug.
Goodbye.